Hello my little dreamers. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm back home. I've been back home for about 4 weeks now, and you're probably wondering where have I been? What has happened since I've got home? Well, to tell you the story time, yes, it is a little bit of a story time vlog, so sit down, get a cup of tea. I've got mine. The last video you would have seen on my channel was when I was saying goodbye to Melody and we got dropped off at San Francisco airport. Oh my goodness, what a ride it was to get home. It was, I'm laughing, I'm smiling right now, but it was the most traumatic experience of my entire life. Let me tell you what happened.
Hey, won't you pour me another? I'm going in, so wish me good luck. Yeah, gotta put on my favorite song. I need a boost. Let's turn up the love.
They won't let me check in until Abby's test results come in. They won't even let me fly to New York before Abby's test results come in, so if they're not here by 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm not allowed on the flight. I said I've got a lateral flow test I can do. They said no, it has to be a PCR test, but I said to them, I went, well, I'm going to New York first and then I don't actually get to Ireland until Saturday morning, and they said it's on the computer system, they can't print my boarding pass until it says that I've got a PCR result. And if I'd have got it any earlier than today, it wouldn't be within the 72 hours. So that's done. It's going to take a miracle. I already know for a fact I'm not going to have the test results before 7 AM. I know I'm not. And at the earliest it would need to be 6 AM because then I still need to go through check-in and security. I'm kind of stuck here until somebody tells me otherwise. You know, after all this, it'll be funny if our result comes in and it's positive, like seriously, but we're fine. I'm not even going to speak that into the atmosphere because we're fine, we're completely fine. Just anxious now, really, but there's nothing I can do about it. There's literally nothing I can do about it, so yeah. I mean, they can't keep me here forever, so I will get home at some point. I just don't know when that'll be. Anyway, this is my view for the next 5 hours.
Your attention please, Airlines Flight 472 New York.
There is literally nobody here. So the results still aren't in yet. I just spoke to the kiosk again. They have booked me on tomorrow's flight at 3 PM tomorrow afternoon, so that's another 24 hours from now. And if my results aren't in by 3 PM tomorrow afternoon, I lose my ticket completely because they can't rebook again. And in that case, I would need to also pay for another PCR test, because then the one that I took yesterday would be invalid for the date. So I've got another 24 hours in this frickin' airport to wait for a result that's probably going to be positive anyway, and if it is, I lose my ticket. If I don't get my result back in time, I lose my ticket. I love my life. Honestly, don't know what to do. I'm trying, I'm googling, I'm searching, my eyes are going cross-eyed. I've been googling all day. This is absolute the worst ever. We're just in line for the COVID test. $250 down the drain because the other one didn't come in time, so just need it to be negative, otherwise we miss the flight and don't get to rebook.
So, I need to take you back a couple of days before we left California. If you remember, Abby had to go for a PCR test. Now, UK wasn't requiring anything, USA wasn't requiring anything. It was only Ireland that needed Abby, because she was under 18, to get a PCR test. And the reason for that is because she only has one vaccine. When we left the UK back in November, under 18s weren't getting double vaccinated at that point. They were only getting one dose, and USA said that it was okay to travel on one dose under the age of 18 as long as you had a PCR test. And that was fine. We'd done that on the way over, and on the way back we had to do that again for Ireland. So on the Wednesday, I believe it was, the Wednesday or Thursday before we left, we took Abby to get her PCR test. And they said that it would take up to 72 hours for the results. Now, Ireland rules required that the PCR test be taken no earlier than 72 hours before arrival. Now, keep in mind that I said arrival, because on the Ireland website it states you need your PCR test results to be negative 72 hours before arrival. Okay, so we took Abby to get the PCR test on the Wednesday, Thursday I think it was, because we were flying on the Friday. This is a long story, I hope you're still with me. We were flying from San Francisco to New York. Then we would have an overnight in New York, and we would fly to Ireland from New York to land in Ireland on the Saturday. Now, Abby got her PCR test 72 hours before the Saturday. When we went to get on the flight on Friday morning to go to New York, San Francisco told us no. Apparently, the airline won't let you on the first flight if you don't have that PCR result. Even though I wasn't getting to Ireland until Saturday, and Abby had her test on Thursday, I believe it was. It was Wednesday or Thursday. So I was a bit lost at this point, and I'm like, but the results aren't needed until we arrive on Saturday in Ireland, so the results will come in before I get to Ireland. So at first the airline was kind, and they said that instead of getting my flight at 7 a.m. in the morning on Friday, they would put it back to 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon. The same flight, just a few hours later, to give time for this result to come in. The result didn't come in. So I went back to the desk at 3 p.m. on the Friday, and they weren't very helpful at this point. They said the only thing they could do at that point was to delay my flight one more time until Saturday morning. Now, keep in mind that my connection flights are now affected by this. We got to the airport Thursday night. We waited all day Friday for this PCR test. We slept in the airport. We waited all day Saturday when we slept in the airport. And at this point I was absolutely just going crazy, because not only were we stuck in San Francisco, not only was my connection flights getting ruined, it was really frustrating. And on the Saturday, they told me that they weren't able to put my flight back anymore. So the only option I had was either to hope that Abby's PCR test result came back in time, or I had to pay $250 to get a same day PCR test at the airport. I mean, I didn't have $200, but I had some people who were just complete guardian angels, and they helped me out with that. And now at this time on the Saturday, Abby was starting to display signs of being not very well. So I was really starting to freak out, because if her result came back positive and she had COVID, we would not be allowed to fly home for another 10 days. And we didn't have any money left at this point. We literally was not even allowed to leave the airport to go and find something else. So I was just going absolutely crazy. So the Saturday came, I got the PCR test the same day. PCR test for Abby, we had to wait hours. Now, we got the result back at 12 p.m. on Saturday, and the flight was at 3 p.m. The results came back that it was negative. She did not have COVID, so that was just the biggest stress relief ever. So we were like, yes, let's do this. We're ready to go. We've got the result. We're going home. went to the airline desk to check in, and they couldn't check us in. And they kept trying to check us in and it wasn't working. So then they said we had to go back to the original airline. I didn't tell you this part. Originally I was flying with Delta. Delta kept pushing the flights back, and when they booked the flight for the Saturday, it was actually with Air France. So instead of going to New York, I would have been going to Paris first and then Ireland. It was like the next available flight. So I was at Air France check-in and they were trying to check me in and it wasn't working, and I'm like, what the heck? So then they said I had to go back to Delta Airlines, which, may I point out, is the complete opposite side of San Francisco Airport. Like, it's like 2 miles away. So we were rushing all the way up, and the guy at the check-in said we had 1 hour to get to Delta to get them to issue the boarding passes to come back to Air France check-in. So we goes away to Delta and I says, look, there's an issue online, can you fix it for me? It turns out that Delta had accidentally double booked me, so they couldn't get me on any flight because I was booked to be on 2 flights at the same time. So that was their fault completely, and at this point I'm just like, are you crazy? Can you fix this? So I had 45 minutes until check-in closed. And this dude's on the phone and he's on hold for ages, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm going crazy, I'm going crazy, I'm going crazy. Finally gets off the phone and he's like, okay, that's you can go and check in now. I looked at my watch and I said, no, I can't because it's 15 minutes after check-in closed. And he's like, oh, but you can still make it. It's the other side of the airport and they're already closed. I cannot time travel. So anyway, I bawled out crying. I was like, dude, you messed this up this time. I just want to go home. I am not staying another night in a freaking airport, because this has been since like Thursday night. It is now Saturday afternoon. I'm like, I just want to go home. I had no money, I had no food, I had nothing, and Abby at this point is starting to get more and more ill, and I'm like, oh no, like, it can't be COVID because she just got a negative result. So anyways, long story cut short, I says to the dude, I said, if you're going to make me stay 1 more night to go on this plane when I have done everything to the rules, to the letter, to the T, I dotted every I crossed every T, I done everything I was supposed to do. I says, I'm not doing this again, so you can put me up a hotel or you can get me on a flight tonight. So long story cut short, they finally got me on a flight to New York at 9 o'clock on Saturday night. We flew to New York. We landed at New York at 6 a.m. on the Sunday morning. And the flight from New York to Ireland wasn't until 9 o'clock that night. So we spent another, 16, 17 hours in New York airport. And we couldn't go outside, we couldn't leave because we were booked in on connecting flights. So, I mean, I spent a day in New York looking at the inside of the airport. At this point, Abby was practically dying. She could not stay awake. She was trying to sleep. She was literally sleeping on chairs that were just in the middle of all the shops. Like, she could not walk anymore. It was getting so tiring, so exhausting. I was completely broken at this point. Like, I'm not even doing it justice. I was so stressed. I was so stressed. I just wanted to get home. I just was so over being at the airport. And so 9 o'clock Sunday night comes and we gets on the plane at 9 o'clock, ready to take off. And then there was a big storm in New York. There was a big huge blizzard which kept us on the runway for 2.5 hours. We were trying to get out before the snow hit, and then one of the machines that pushes the plane away from the airport, the hydraulic system, blew up and we couldn't go anywhere. We were stuck on the tarmac for 2.5 hours. So all this time I'm just like, Lord, just get me home, please. So all day goes past. Sunday night we flies to Ireland. We gets to Ireland on Monday morning. My flight from Ireland wasn't until Tuesday, because when I tried to rebook the connecting flight, there was nothing available for Sunday or Monday, so it was Tuesday. So just a quick recap. We got to San Francisco airport on Thursday night. We were supposed to take off on Friday morning. We couldn't. We got the PCR test on the Saturday. Couldn't fly out on Saturday afternoon. Waited till Saturday night. Got to New York on Sunday. Waited all day there. Got to Ireland on Monday. And had to wait 24 hours there. By this point, we were just dead. I'm laughing about it now, but I swear, it was like the most stressful thing ever. We slept most of the day in Ireland, so that was not too bad. The police did come up once and was like, have you got flights? And we're like, yes, we're just here really early. So, we finally got on the flight at 7 o'clock on Tuesday morning to get back home to Glasgow. We landed in Glasgow. Now, I live about an hour and a half away from Glasgow airport. So at this point I was like, I need to get a taxi cab. I had £35 left. I was like, I'll go to the bank machine, I'll lift the money. I went to lift the money and the bank machine, the ATM wasn't working, they had no cash. And I'm like, I just want to go home. So I went to the taxi and I was like, look, $35, can you just take me home for 35? They were like, no, it's 40. I'm like, I don't have 40. So I had to phone my son and I'm like, Stuart, send me $5. I cannot wait on a bus. I am not staying at this airport any longer than I physically have to. So anyway, long story cut short, my son helped me out on that ordeal and we got in a taxi and we finally got home at 10 AM on the Tuesday morning, and that was since the Thursday night being stuck in the airport. Now here's the absolute craziest thing ever. We got home. Because Abby was so ill, I thought I'm just going to give her a lateral flow test. We had some spare. I gave her a lateral flow test. And she tested freaking positive! She was freaking positive! So let me explain what that means. That means that the test on the Saturday did not pick up. We're very grateful for that because we wouldn't have got home if it did. So thank you for that saying negative. But my question is, she was actually positive. So even though they said negative, we got on 3 flights when Abby had COVID symptoms. And she was positive. So, is that my fault? No. Is that their fault? Yes. Do I feel bad that we might have exposed a bunch of people to COVID? Of course I do. But, I mean, I'm not psychic. The test on Saturday said negative. And then the best part, the original PCR test that we took Abby for, I didn't get the results until 7 days later. So if you go for a free PCR test, you've got a longer wait. If you pay £200, you'll get results straight away, but they're probably not going to be very accurate, I'm just saying. Because all I can speak for is our situation. Abby was negative 10 minutes in the door. Positive, which means from the Saturday to the Tuesday, she had COVID. And we had masks on. I'm double vaccinated. And guess what? I tested the whole time. And not once did I come up positive. Not once. I spent the whole time. We found out after, when we got home, that Mel had COVID too. So Mel had COVID. Abby had COVID. I was around them. I was in the car. I was with Abby the whole time at the airport, sitting right beside her, giving her hugs, everything. And I did not catch it. At all. And I've done tests like since I got home and I never once had it. So I don't know if I'm just one of these asymptomatic people or if I'm already immune to it or I had it and didn't know. I don't know. But it was an ordeal getting home, so that literally kicked me off on a 4-week depressive episode. I'm not joking. Since I've got home, I'm a lot better now. I'm getting better now. But for the first few weeks, it took me a minute to readjust. I was completely lost, did not know what the heck I was doing. It was just a nightmare. It was just an absolute nightmare getting home and then being home and just like now what? Like, what do I do now? Like, I don't have my bestie there every day, and oh, it's just a bit of a nightmare, and financial situations and all that kind of stuff. I've literally just been dropped right into the deep end again. But I have plans. I need to find a job. I need to save up some money. I want to do driving lessons. Like, there's stuff I want to do and I'll get there. I need to decorate my house. I'm still trying to move. Still get mold situations going on. Oh, it's just a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. But I thought I should come on and tell you guys what had actually happened, because I realised that you guys didn't actually know what has happened since I got home. So yeah, that was the story time of when I had to stay in an airport for 5 days. Anyways, I will be back again at some point with some more random vlog stuff and anything else I can think of. But in the meantime, I hope all you guys are well. I hope everybody is just having the best day ever. And if not, you should probably go and find something that will help make you smile. Look for those moments. It's definitely worth it. And one more thing. Just casually standing here watching me, staring at me. Hello.
Hi.
It's an Abby.
My
How are you feeling?
I don't have COVID.
You don't have COVID anymore. How was it? How did it make you feel?
Having COVID or being in the airport, that's two different
Both.
situations.
What was your take on it?
Well, in the airport, for the first day and a half, we couldn't find anywhere that had proper food. Like, we were eating on very expensive vending
We lived
machines.
off vending machines when it was like $4 for a packet of crisps and like $4 for a bottle of water.
And then at like midnight, she got bored, so she wandered around the airport, and I didn't realise how far she walked until the next day. She walked to the opposite side of the airport where it was like different terminals, and there was this one restaurant that was open. She was like, please.
I found a restaurant. After 2 days of nothing, we finally found somewhere to eat in the airport that was like the opposite side of where we were. And I was like, chicken and fries! And was running back to Abby like, look, I got food! It was the highlight of the whole trip.
And at that point, I started feeling like symptoms. But I told my friend this, like, I think I have COVID, and I shouldn't have COVID right now because we're trying to fly home. And he was like, oh, it's probably because you haven't slept right. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I kept saying that. You probably just feel ill because you haven't slept, Abby. Like, just complete wishful thinking. Do not even mention the C word.
It was like, because I was texting my friends and they're like, no, you're just tired, I haven't slept yet in like 2 days. Yeah, my sleeping schedule didn't get back on track for a few days.
No, it took us a while to readjust, getting comfy, trying to just come back to regular living. It was a nightmare, wasn't it? But you handled it like a champ. She was just going with the flow. It was me. I was like, ah, and she's just like, yeah.
Yeah, in stressful situations, I just accept my fate. Like,
like, we're just stuck here forever. It's fine.
it's like, well, it's either accept it or panic, and I'm like, I don't want to panic to add to your stress. So I'm like, well, we're living here now. It's like, because you can't really do much. And then, literally, we had I had the symptoms from San Francisco to New York, and then like getting to Ireland and New York was a bit different because they were there, but they kept like getting worse and getting better, like in and out. And I remember on the airplane to Ireland, was it, where
every time you coughed, I was like, shh, don't look ill. Can you please look less ill right now, thanks.
literally we were in the COVID centre, and I was like, to this suitcase, and you're like,
don't look sick.
And we're on the flight to Ireland, because there was barely any people, we got our own rows, so we were all lying there like, ugh.
Yes, that was the highlight, because the flight was so empty. There was rows that was empty, so the staff said that we could split up seating. So Abby was in a double seat, I was in a double seat. We're like, sleep.
Literally, I was watching episodes of Friends on a little screen thing, falling asleep in and out until I got brought food, and I'm like, ah.
We got food. It was so good.
And I napped for like 5 hours on the plane, And I woke up and it's like, you have an hour and a half left, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I just ended up putting on Wallace and Gromit. I think
I watched Venom too. It was quite good on the plane.
you watched it with subtitles on one of the planes because you had to pay for headphones, which I found stupid. And then on the second plane, you're like, let's listen to it.
Anyways, so we will do another video on all the fun stuff and just like catching up and talking about what I enjoyed about California and all the things that we done and all that kind of stuff. But I think for now we'll probably go because unedited this video is 22 minutes. So I'm going to edit it and then upload it, and however long it is, you'll see how much I've edited out because it's 22 minutes right now.
You just edited me entirely out.
I won't edit you out. I won't edit Abby out. I'll keep it in.
Edit me
I'll
out
keep
of
it
the
in.
video as you talk.
But again, thank you to everybody who has just been the best ever. I've got the best friends, honestly. I don't know what, I couldn't do life without you guys. I really couldn't. But anyways, I'm going now. I'm going to...
Leave.
What?
Get it. Leave.
Bye guys. It was nice to see you. I'll see you on the next vlog, okay?